The morning sun barely crested the rolling hills of Willow Creek, Tennessee, when I stepped out of my old Chevy pickup, the air thick with the scent of dew-soaked grass. A piercing scream shattered the quiet. "Arrest him now," barked Claudia Wentworth, the iron-fisted president of our homeowners association, her voice slicing through the calm like a blade. 3 police cruisers had their guns trained on me before I could even shut the truck door, all because I dared to set foot on the property my family had owned for nearly half a century. Claudia, clutching her ever-present tablet like a general wielding a battle plan, had no clue I wasn't alone. Behind me, a sleek black SUV purred to a stop, and the people stepping out weren't nosy neighbors, they were federal agents in tactical gear, armed with search warrants. In my hands, I held something nobody expected, evidence that could torch Claudia's reign of terror and expose a conspiracy that stretched far beyond our sleepy subdivision. It all started 6 months earlier, in April 2025, when I, Nathan Harper, a 43-year-old structural engineer, inherited my grandfather's house in Willow Creek. The place was a time capsule, hardwood floors that groaned with history, a wraparound porch where Grandpa Joe used to host summer cookouts, and a garden bursting with his prized azaleas. This wasn't just a house. It was the heart of a community that once thrived on trust and shared laughter. But Claudia Wentworth had other plans. Elected HOA president just a year ago, she'd swept in from some ritzy Nashville suburb, armed with a digital arsenal of violation notices and a mission to enforce neighborhood excellence. Her first move against me came in the form of a crimson email, accusing my grandfather's slate gray roof of violating some obscure architectural harmony code 52C. The fine? A cool $600 unless I repainted it within 2 weeks. I stared at that email, dumbfounded. The roof was original, meticulously maintained, and blended perfectly with the Tennessee hills. When I called Claudia to sort out what I assumed was a mix-up, her voice dripped with fake sympathy. "Mr. Harper, I'm so sorry about your grandfather, but our standards have evolved. That roof simply doesn't align with our vision for Willow Creek's property values." Her tone was polished, rehearsed, like she'd delivered this speech 100 times. When I pressed for the code she cited, she dodged, promising to send documentation while hinting at escalating penalties. That night, sitting on Grandpa Joe's porch, I dug into Willow Creek's records. Code 52C didn't exist, not in county files, not in state regulations, nowhere. Claudia wasn't just a control freak. She was running a scam, using fake rules to extort residents who didn't know better. The next day, I visited Mrs. Lillian Carter, Grandpa Joe's old friend, who lived a few houses down. Her living room smelled of chamomile tea, but the mood was anything but cozy. With trembling hands, she spread out a stack of documents her late husband, George, had kept as the HOA's former treasurer. "George always said to keep records," she whispered, glancing nervously at her windows. The papers revealed a chilling pattern. Willow Creek's 220 households paid roughly $2.1 million annually in HOA fees, but only about $700,000 went to actual services like landscaping or streetlights. The rest, $1.4 million a year, vanished into vague line items like management reserves or community enhancement. George's notes, scrawled in red ink, questioned these discrepancies, hinting at offshore accounts tied to something called the Willow Creek Unity Fund, a charity I'd never heard of. Lillian handed me a faded envelope containing bank statements that made my blood run cold. The Unity Fund was funneling tens of thousands at a time to accounts in the Bahamas and Panama, linked to shell companies with names like Neighborhood Prosperity LLC. George had confronted Claudia about the fund before his death 2 years ago, only to be dismissed as out of touch. Lillian's voice shook as she showed me screenshots of Claudia's old social media posts, posing at real estate conferences with developers tied to firms specializing in community revitalization. Claudia wasn't just shaking down neighbors, she was part of a machine targeting subdivisions for profit. I photographed every document, my hands shaking with a mix of fury and fear. "What do we do, Nathan?" Lillian asked, her eyes wide. "We expose her," I replied, channeling Grandpa Joe's belief that truth could dismantle even the slickest lies. "But we have to be careful. She's not going down without a fight." That afternoon, I called the FBI's Financial Crimes Division and connected with Agent Laura Bennett, whose calm professionalism told me she'd seen cases like this before. "Mr. Harper, we've been tracking suspicious HOA transactions across Tennessee. Can you help us build the case?" Thus began my role as an unlikely informant. Agent Bennett equipped me with a tiny recording device disguised as a pen and coached me to play the defeated homeowner. I arranged a meeting with Claudia at the HOA office, a sterile space in a strip mall where her tablets were lined up like trophies. My son, Ethan, and his friend Lily Patel kept watch outside, ready to text if anyone approached. Lily, a tech-savvy teen, had her drone buzzing overhead, streaming the scene to her online followers, who were hooked on her HOA Tyrant Takedown series. Claudia greeted me with a smug grin, her tailored suit and glittering earrings screaming corporate power. "Mr. Harper, I'm glad you're seeing reason," she said, gesturing to a chair across her desk. I nodded, playing the part, while the pen in my pocket recorded every word. Claudia didn't just talk about my violations, she launched into a lecture about her vision for modern HOA management. "The Unity Fund allows us to streamline funds without bureaucratic delays," she boasted, oblivious to the trap. She bragged about pressuring problem residents to sell their homes at bargain prices, describing families like investments to be flipped. She even mentioned her partners in real estate firms, names I memorized for Agent Bennett. By the time I left, I had a 2-hour confession of fraud, conspiracy, and money laundering. That night, my phone buzzed with a message that upended everything. "Mr. Harper, this is Ryan Wentworth. My mom doesn't know I'm contacting you. The police show up tomorrow isn't what you think. Please meet me." Claudia's son, a compliance officer at a local bank, wanted to talk. At a 24-hour diner off Route 70, Ryan looked haunted, his coffee untouched. "I've been tracking her transactions," he admitted, sliding over a folder of bank records. "She's laundered $3.8 million through fake charities in 3 years. His documents revealed a web of shell foundations across multiple states, all funneling HOA fees to offshore accounts. Ryan's breaking point came watching Claudia bully a young couple into selling their home for $50,000 below market value. "She's planning a big move tomorrow," he warned, showing text between Claudia and a contact labeled Elliot. She'd called the police to stage a trespassing arrest to intimidate me, but Ryan had tipped off Agent Bennett, ensuring federal agents would show up instead. The next morning, April 17th, 2025, I drove into Willow Creek, my heart racing. Claudia stood in the street, tablet in hand, live streaming her takedown of a dangerous squatter. Neighbors gathered, some filming, others whispering. Officer Daniels, clearly uneasy, approached me. "Sir, we've had reports of trespassing. Can you explain?" Before I could answer, Claudia shrieked, "He's a threat to our community standards," pointing at my truck like it was a crime scene. Then came the roar of diesel engines. 3 black SUVs rolled in, and Agent Bennett stepped out, warrant in hand. "Claudia Wentworth, you're under federal investigation for money laundering, fraud, and RICO violations." Claudia's face collapsed, her tablet shaking as she stammered about landscape compliance. I couldn't resist. "Surprise, Claudia." I brought backup. As agents moved in, Ryan emerged, handing over his damning financial records. "I'm sorry, Mom," he said, his voice breaking. The crowd erupted as Claudia was cuffed, still clutching her tablet, muttering about standards. Neighbors shared their own stories of fake Finisa $1,500 non-compliant fence here, a $2,000 unauthorized mailbox there. The FBI recovered $3.8 million, returning thousands to each household. Claudia got 14 years in prison, where she reportedly measures her cell daily with a makeshift ruler. But Agent Bennett warned me the fight wasn't over. Claudia's operation tied to Prestige Realty Group, a corporation running similar scams in 180 communities nationwide. When their CEO, Marcus Elliott, offered me a $700,000 consulting bribe months later, my FBI wire caught his confession, landing him in cuffs too. Willow Creek rebuilt, with a new council and a memorial garden honoring Grandpa Joe. But the battle continues, as families across America face the same predators. What would you do if you discovered your HOA was a front for a criminal empire? Was Ryan right to betray his mother for justice? Or should family loyalty come first? Should communities dismantle HOAs entirely to prevent this abuse? Share your thoughts below, and if this story hit home, like and subscribe for more tales of ordinary people fighting back against corruption.